like Roy Joe, I do a lot of work with senior thesis writers, also with first years who are doing longer projects for the first time. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm Felicia Chavez. I'm in a newer position at Colorado College as a thesis writing specialist. I teach once a week classes, adjunct classes with the students seniors who are working on their thesis projects, and also juniors preparing them for the thesis writing process. And I also work to create community among senior thesis writers by holding large events, usually stuffing them with food.
Everything's better with food,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah. And so I pulled together this group so that we could talk about some ideas that we have about working with writers of capstone projects, but we also want to get some ideas from the folks in the room about that too. And then we'll also fold in some new considerations that come from a discipline actually quite far removed from writing, but I think that can be really helpful both for us as people who work with writers of long projects and also for those writers themselves. And so that's where we're headed. Okay. So, but to begin with, I want us all to put ourselves in mindset. Imagine that you work in a writing center. Okay, this is going to be tough, right? I can tell that some of you in the room are thinking, wow, what's that like? So imagine that maybe you work in the writing center or you work with writers of some kind, okay? And a student comes in to see you with a long paper, okay, a very long paper, 10 pages, 20 pages, perhaps 30 pages, right? And you have one session to work with that student. Maybe your session is 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, okay? And this is the one time that you have to work with them. The pressure, right, escalates immediately. It's a big paper, you have this one chance to help them with something, right? How many pages can you do in 30 minutes? Right? How many pages?
30.
Really? Get up here. Right? Right? So you're thinking to yourself, okay, how many pages can I do in 30 minutes, right? What can I even accomplish in 30 minutes, right? Where do I even start?
We all know that an increasing number of colleges are requiring their students to create a capstone project, to have a finale of sorts in their last year. And that may fall under the term capstone, that may fall under the term of thesis. But more and more students are seeking out writing centers with these big papers, these research papers, and we're all looking for ways to support them.
Yeah. So as Roy Joe hinted earlier, oftentimes we see these writers at the very tail end of the process when they are looking for a so-called final polish. And I don't know about you guys.
Yes, they've never heard of that before, Brenna. Never.
Right. I often think, well, if only we could have seen this paper a little bit earlier, so for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
Several weeks, even several months.
Exactly, right? But how do we do that? I mean, how do we do that when most of our writing centers are staffed by peer consultants who might not work regularly enough to provide the kind of continuity these kinds of projects could best benefit from? How do we do that when students might not come in multiple times during the process? They might only come in once or maybe twice. Okay, and so that brings us to the guiding questions for today's workshop, the two questions that we hope to explore with you guys over the next just under an hour at this point. How do we prepare our consultants to work with writers of long projects when the consultants might see the projects at any stage of the process? And then if our consultants might not be able to provide continuity, either because of their own schedules or because the writers might not come in very, very often, how do we empower the writers themselves to manage their own long-term writing processes?
Yeah, that's our agenda of sorts. We've noted those up there and hope to guide within the process of this next hour to kind of hit on and share amongst ourselves strategies to achieve those goals. So to start us off, we thought we would have a short discussion of our current best practices and then later share some challenges that we may face as we're practicing our best practices. So I wanted to open up to the group, and if you have a response, if you would please say your name and where you're from. what do you do? What do you currently do to support writers of long projects?
Rachel, I'm at MSU Denver, and I actually had a student come in with their senior thesis 3 weeks ago, and it was 78 pages long. So you're like 30 minutes. And her teacher just last week told her no, she needed to cut half of it out. So I had to sit there with her and cut half of it out. They wanted her to get it under 40 pages anyway.
What amount of time was that? How much time did you have to work with her?
I had 40 minutes every time. She came in several times after that first time. I didn't know she was going to be coming back. I basically told her, okay, we're not going to be able to do much today. I think you're going to need to start coming in a little more often. So she came in I'm there Tuesdays and Thursdays. So she's come in every Tuesday and Thursday since then. And our scheduler, Yvonne, who's a miracle worker and amazing, has actually made sure that even if I have other people, that if there's someone else available or someone canceled, she gives my other students to them so I have more time to work with her, which has been really helpful.
It's high stakes.
Yeah. But the first thing I did with her was say, okay, we're not going to be able to get through all of this today. I don't even know that I should even start reading at this point. Tell me what part you're concerned about. And so that's where we started. And I haven't actually read much of her paper at all, to be honest with you. Every time she comes in, she either has notes from her readers that she's like, okay, they said to do this. What do you think? How should I do this? And we work through it together, or going through the citations or stuff like that. But it's mostly, what's the thing you're most concerned about today?
And kind of big picture sorts of things. It sounds like that's what you guys are working on. When you've got to cut that much, it's like looking at structure, looking at big ideas, big chunks to move or to cut. Okay. Yeah. Other thoughts?
I'm Angela from Arapahoe Community College, and